Old maps don't lie, but I'll tell you the folks at the county sure did. I never pictured a day when riding my fence line at sunrise would lead me straight to 50 sparkling new houses sitting square in the middle of my ranch. And you better believe by the time I shut down their one and only road out, the whole shiny HOA was trapped nowhere to run. What happened after? Well, it turned a quiet land dispute into a full-blown reckoning that had this whole county talking. Sunrise hadn't even shaken the frost loose when I saddled up and headed for the south fence. That's my time to think fog low over the grass, air biting sharp, just me and the kind of quiet that makes you feel like the whole earth's holding its breath. My granddad used to say, the land wakes up slower than people. And smarter, too. I wasn't out there hunting for trouble, just checking the line after a cold snap. But like my dad always warned me, trouble's got a way of sniffing you out, especially when some fool thinks your land ought to be theirs. About a mile out, my gelding pricked up his ears. Something was wrong. I leaned in the saddle, scanning ahead, then it hit me. A chunk of fence, 12 feet or so, wasn't just down. It was flat out missing. Gone. Posts, yanked up clean earth, still sharp around the holes, like someone had just picked them out of the dirt and set them aside. Fresh tire tracks, wide and heavy, cut across my grazing field like scars that wouldn't heal. And right then, standing with my hand pressed to the cold dirt, I knew whoever did this wasn't confused. They weren't lost. They were bold. This wasn't a lost cow or a drunk kid. This was planned. The tracks led up toward the ridge. I swung back in the saddle, heart pounding. Something ugly was waiting for me up there. I could feel it prickling at the back of my neck. I crested the ridge, and honest to God, I stopped breathing. Below me, where open pasture used to stretch clear to the cottonwoods, now stood 50 cookie-cutter homes lined up like parade floats. New asphalt, perfect driveways, postage stamp lawns so green it looked like someone had painted them. And there, staked at the entrance, was a metal sign, Cedar Crest Village, a premier community. My jaw locked up so tight I swear I could feel my molars creak. These houses weren't near my land. They were smack on top of it, Marlow Ridge Ranch, the ground my family'd sweated over for 3 generations. Not sold, not leased, not given away, just taken plain as day. Down below, a couple kids zipped by on scooters. A woman hummed while unloading groceries. Just living like this place belonged to them. Normal. Right. Except my gut said different. This wasn't normal. This was theft. And as I sat there, knuckles white around the reins, it wasn't just anger burning in my chest. It was the kind of cold, sharp focus that comes right before a storm breaks. I rode down slower than I felt. Up close, the place was even more surreal. Every house was perfect, like some planner had built it on a computer, never walked the land. Sprinklers ticked on, decorations hung on porches, all of it running under the lie that this land belonged to them. And then barreling toward me on a golf cart came a woman in a red blazer, all business and posture. She slammed the brake, barely missing my horse. "Sir, you're not allowed to be on HOA property. Residents only." I didn't even blink. "This isn't HOA property." She stared like I'd just told her the sky was purple. "I'm Marcia Keene, president of the Cedar Crest Village Homeowners Association. This subdivision is private. That means you're trespassing." "I'm Ethan Marlowe," I told her, steady as I could. "Owner of Marlow Ridge Ranch. Unless geography changed last night, you're standing on my land." She laughed a mean short sound. "Your ranch is out there. This is all county approved, recorded. You need to leave." Right on cue, a tall guy in shiny shoes stepped out from a house binder in hand, looking ready to sell me a used car. "This a problem, Marcia?" He glanced at me like I was dog crap on the carpet. "I'm Travis Holtcomb, HOA Vice President. I assure you any confusion about boundaries is your mistake. The development firm handled all transfers, but when I asked for proof, a deed, a plat, anything with my name, he just waved his binder. Confidential. But I promise you, you're mistaken." Funny thing, people use words like promise and mistaken when they think you're too small to fight back. I kept my voice level. That fence was mine. Those tire tracks are still warm. Before we go further, let's be clear. The land under your homes belongs to me. They both squared their shoulders, getting ready to steamroll me with paperwork and attitude. "If you keep making false claims," Marcia said, "you'll be fined for harassment. HOA violations can get expensive." "I'm standing on my own ranch," I told her. She didn't care. Travis started writing up a citation right there, blank spaces for names and dates. We can begin the process today. I looked around the cul-de-sac behind them, residents peeking through blinds watching the show. To them, Marcia was the sheriff, Travis the law. I was just the scruffy guy on a horse. But the ground under their feet, that ground knew the truth. So did I. If you believe this is your land, prove it. I'll wait. We don't owe you explanations. That's about when I realized they were banking on the idea that no one would ever question them. Their authority was a bluff, but paperwork cuts both ways, and I had more than enough to call theirs. Back at the ranch house, I pulled every map, every plat, every survey my father and grandfather ever filed. The southern quadrant where Cedar Crest Village now sat was clearly ours. No transfers, no easements, no nothing. I called Claire Hennon, the sharpest land rights attorney around. She looked over the documents, eyes hard. Everything matches, Ethan. This is your land. The development overlays are faked. Permits are missing. Approvals are signed by a planner who hasn't worked here in a year. Her voice dropped. Someone forged the whole thing. They built this subdivision on top of your land, on top of a lie. And the HOA's using that lie to threaten you. Before we could even start the next step, an email arrived. HOA violation notice, accusing me of trespassing, disturbing the peace, interfering with HOA officers. Claire snorted. They're trying to flip the story, paint you as the aggressor, weaken your credibility. Classic move. It wasn't just about scaring me off. They were fabricating a paper trail. If I ever challenged them, they'd say it was retaliation, that I was hostile, dangerous. But I had the truth, and we were going to break their story wide open. We drove straight to the county recorder's office, no time to waste if someone there was in on this. Riley Grant, a clerk I recognized, led us to the files. When she opened the drawer marked Cedar Crest Village, my heart dropped. The developer's plat was there, but the land description was wrong, listing a parcel number that didn't even exist. They'd mapped it right over my ranch, called it a new lot, but the county records never showed it being formed, and the approval signatures stamped with a planner's name who'd retired months before. That's not a mistake, that's fraud. Then Riley handed us a road permit. It was for an inspection, never for access. But the only road in and out of Cedar Crest ran right through the middle of my property. They'd paved it without an easement, hoping no one would notice. Suddenly all their confidence made sense. They thought the paperwork covered them, but it didn't. If I controlled the road, I controlled everything. That afternoon, the HOA sent contractors to install a gate at the southern boundary 10 feet inside my property line. I called Sheriff Boyd Cutter. He showed up, looked at my documents, and shut the whole thing down. This road belongs to you, Ethan. No easement, no transfer. They're trespassing. He made the contractors leave right there in front of Marcia and her golf cart. Word got around fast. HOA residents gathered, some nervous, some angry. Marcia fumed, tried to play tough, but the sheriff wouldn't budge. Show me the deed, he said. She couldn't. Travis waved his binder, useless. Until you can... Boyd told them no construction, no gates, no trespassing. But that was just the start. That night, violation notices started stacking up $7, $200 in fines for trespassing on HOA property. Letters stuck to my truck flyers accusing me of endangering children, all desperate attempts to paint me as the bad guy. But the real shift happened when Daniel Ortiz, a resident, came to my gate newspaper in hand, hands shaking. People are scared, he said. Nobody told us about the missing hearings, about the land not being ours. Now folks are whispering about forged signatures. I didn't buy a home for this. He handed me the local paper front page, blaming me for blocking community development. But he agreed to help. He wanted the truth, too. That night, my trail cameras caught 2 HOA board members prowling the east fence, checking survey markers. The next morning, Cedar Crest put up community safety alert flyers, my face on them labeled as a trespasser. The smear campaign was in full swing. But I didn't back down. Claire kept building our case plats, deeds, boundary photos, letters, witness statements, even the sheriff's report. The canyon turned tense. Residents kept their heads down. The air itself felt tight, like everything was bracing for something big. And it was. Because the next morning I brought in Hank Brewer, the local welder who builds things meant to last. You want a gate or a wall? He asked. A gate, I told him, but one that feels like a wall. By midday, he'd sunk steel posts deep in the earth, right where the illegal road cut through my property. By 3, a 12-foot black steel gate stood chain-locked, making Cedar Crest Village an island. That evening, the first car stopped. Then another. By sunset, 8 vehicles lined up residents' trapped headlights, staring at the gate like they could glare it down. The next day, a school bus delivery van, even Marcia herself furious, demanding I open up. "Open this gate, Ethan," she shouted. "It's private property," I called back. "You're holding a subdivision hostage." "No, I'm holding my property line." Sheriff Cutter showed up again, reviewed the documents, and said the words that changed everything. "He's within his rights. The road lies on his deed. No easement, no right of way." Marcia fumed. Residents started turning on her. "Did you know this wasn't our land?" someone yelled. "Why wasn't this disclosed?" Panic set in. By midday, the news crews arrived. Local TV painted me as the villain, but the camera didn't lie. 50 homes stranded, all because their leaders built on stolen ground. The HOA made a desperate move, tried to bulldoze a bypass road on federal land. Sheriff Cutter shut that down in minutes. By sunset, Cedar Crest was sealed off. The HOA realized finally that the world they'd built existed at the mercy of the man they tried to erase. Daniel leaked board emails proving Marcia and Travis planned the fraud. A county clerk brought memos showing the developer pushed approvals without hearings, assuming consent they never had. The case went to court. Judge Franklin, tough as old hickory, listened as Claire laid out every document, every forged signature, every missing permit. The judge saw through the HOA's act. "This is not a case about a blocked road," she said. "It's about a subdivision built on land the developer never owned." She ruled HOA authority suspended. Access road recognized as mine. Fraud investigation ordered. The gavel struck, and justice rang out across every dishonest corner of Cedar Crest Village. When it ended, residents huddled around me, scared lost, asking what happens next. The anger in me cooled just a little. "You're not my enemies," I told them. "But the road stays closed until things are made right. Lawful access, lawful records, lawful governance. Everything you were promised but never given." The city brokered a deal. They bought the road at fair market value, appointed a temporary board. Residents voted on new bylaws. Marcia and Travis disappeared. The investigation gained teeth. And for the first time, the place felt connected, earned. My land stopped whispering warnings. It sighed in relief. Sunset found me up on the ridge where it all started, looking down as kids played soccer, dogs ran, lights glowed in kitchen windows. The land was balanced again, not conquered, not stolen, but restored. My dad used to say, "The frontier teaches you 2 things, stand your ground and know when the fight's really over." Down below, Cedar Crest found its future. Up top, Marlowe Ranch kept its soul. So here's the truth. Justice isn't about vengeance or even about winning. Sometimes it's about restoring what should have been there all along. Out here, justice doesn't shout. It's written in boundaries, deeds, and the stubborn courage to defend them. And if you've ever had to stand your ground, drop a justice in the comments. Let folks know they're not alone. What would you do if you had the power to shut down a world built on a lie? Would you show mercy or hold that line to the bitter end? Share your thoughts. Below, what's justice look like to you? And where do we draw the line between forgiveness and standing firm? And if you want more stories of fighting back with grit and the law, stick around. Next chapter of Frontier Justice drops soon.